Night.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Horrornightoasis, a radio show where we discuss all the latest movies and news from the world of horror. Joining me tonight, barely, is my co-host Ian. Ian, are you there?
Barely is definitely the word for it.
I hear you, man. Like I said, it's been one of those weeks, and what better way to try to put a bow on it than to discuss some horror? And sadly, we don't have a really talkative subject of a movie tonight, but we're going to try to persevere as we continue on with our Twisted Nature Marathon for the month of April. We had some choices. I made the final decision on this one because of our Easter pick, which was predetermined pretty much at the beginning of the month. And I just didn't feel like the other choice that we had between these two didn't feel like going back to back with sort of the same idea for that. So I opted to do this one, and that is Ravenstein. I believe it's a British offering, and man, those British people, they can sure put you to sleep. But let's get into Ravenstein, because again, I don't think this is going to be that long of a show. But we've been wrong before in previous shows, and sometimes like where we didn't go on long, we went on an hour. But we'll see how this one turns out. So Ravenstein is about two. They say they're amateur urban explorers, and I guess that's the case. But we have David and Marky, and they're riding their bicycles at night to this. Again, they say abandoned factory, but it's just a bunch of shacks and buildings that's decrepit and falling down. So I guess it's sort of a factory. Later on in the film, they start bringing up things that happened in a factory. So I guess it's just like the outskirts of the factory and not like the main factory. But it doesn't matter, honestly. It's superfluous. And so they go there and they just start wandering around the premises, walking into buildings, walking into old campers, just a bunch of again, decrepit, old, stuff, buildings, it's just old factory stuff, old buildings, siding, just falling down, run down places on the outskirts of this town that they live in. And while looking around, they run into Jack, who is sort of a bum, and he lives on the premises. And he has a history with the factory, and he just stays there for no good reason. And he used to work there. He starts telling them stories of stuff that goes on around the facility, around that part of the area. And again, Marky and David just go around walking, flashlights in the buildings, in the campers, and just through the forest, woods area. until they are followed by Mr. Ravenstein, aka Raven Scissorhands.
I was literally going to make that joke.
Yeah, and basically they start running from the Ravenstein, and they just run and run and run, and the Ravenstein chases them, and they think they're safe, and then they come back out of their hiding hole, and then they get chased again. They run into some people. They get chased by Ravenstein again, and then it slows down, and then they're rummaging through the house. They take a break to talk about how their life sucks, sort of, and they're not happy about what they're doing, and then it gets personal, and then they're chased by Ravenstein again, and then one of the kids' dad shows up, and then they're chased by Ravenstein again, and pretty much rinse and repeat. Um, and it's not very entertaining, except when Ravenstein attacks. Then it just like it's very somber and just like just like watching like explorers, just like rummage through things and through the buildings and stuff. And it's just very somber, no music's playing, it's just ambience. And then Ravenstein shows up and it's like a early 2000s German metal band just starts playing, like In Flames and Meshuggah just starts playing, and just like drum fills and double basses, and just like it's just like you know just that heavy metal, new metal, heavy metal from 2005 or 2003. And it's just like Ravenstein comes on, it's all chaotic and all over the place, and he's attacking people. And I mean, that's the best part of the movie, honestly. The rest of it, like I said, it's just not very entertaining until Ravenstein shows up, and that's basically the film. It's not, I wouldn't say it's terrible. It's not terrible. It's just meandering. Um, there's not much of a central plot. It's just two kids exploring. Um, it kind of reminded me of The Haunting of the Murder House, where it's like, but that one's found footage, and they're going through the house, and like nothing really happens, and then the clown killer shows up at the end, like, oh, finally something interesting. It's like it's not terrible by any means, but it's just meandering, and then finally something happens. And like this one's like sprinkled in like here and there throughout the movie, and like whenever Ravenstein, it's like Graveyard Shark, whenever Graveyard Shark showed up, it was like awesome. Like whenever Ravenstein showed up, it was like, all right, finally something interesting happens. It's like a an EpiPen, F and F, one of those, what was those shots called, where I forget. Anyway, it's like one of those booster shots where adrenaline shot, and it just keeps like finally something's happening. I'm awake, and the without having to deal with Marky and David just bickering a lot for no reason, and then Marky just disappears for half the movie, and then finally, because we have David and his dad shows, when his dad shows up towards near the conclusion of the film, and we have to get father-son bonding moment in a way, and it just like goes on from there. And then like again, there's a history of David's dad and Jack, and then not to mention Charlie, which is like him and his friend. There's like a good 7-minute scene of them just shooting the shit, smoking and drinking, and so we always have to have those in these type of films where there's just like no reason. And then Ravenstein shows up and finally kicks it into high gear. But yeah, it wasn't the best. It wasn't terrible. It was just, again, just like, I wouldn't say it's numbing. It's just like not much happens. And like the lore of the Ravenstein, like I was kind of into, like I was with Graveyard Shark, and I like what they do with Ravenstein. But we'll get into that. We get into spoilers, and then Ian, you go on, and we'll go back and forth.
Well, I mean, the movie was kind of a snooze fest for most of it. I thought I liked what they did with Ravenstein for what they had the budget for. You could
Yeah.
tell. Um, you can definitely tell that they put all of their effort into making that costume. With like they're like, hey, we found this cool mask online and a robe. Uh, what should we do? I don't know. Give them fucking knives for fingers, like Freddy Krueger. All right, we got a monster. Um, but there's just so many spots that are just drug out for no reason, and I don't know. It's like you said, it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't good. It wasn't. It was like you only had get like it's a cool scene with Ravenstein, and then it's just
This this is an equivalent of I think I made this before in another film, but it's like fast food. It's quick and easy. You know, it's like it's cheap, it's quick, it's easy, and you're gonna forget about it. What you ate earlier, you know, just one of those where it's just in and out.
It does not need to be an hour and a half long.
There was no need for it. No, there was too much padding.
Yeah,
And not much story.
Yeah, that's the worst part is the fact that there's not much to go on. Like we get the point, fairly early on, and it's like they keep reminding us of like the point. And it's like we already understand it. Give us something else to go off of. And it just kind of felt like they didn't really know what they were doing or where they wanted to go with it.
It's
Which
one of
is
those
fine.
where it's like it was good on paper, but then the execution wasn't exactly up to par.
Right.
But yeah, like as you mentioned, like the outfit of Ravenstein, it looked again, it was sufficient enough for the limitations. I mean, it looks way even though you said it's like just like a mask they found and like they had like black pants, a black shirt, long sleeve shirt, and a tethered robe to put on it or a sheet and claws. I'm like, hey, at least he tried. You know, like I always the top tier of like not trying is like Desert Wolf, where it's just brown painted cotton balls on someone's face. You know, it's just like I always put it at the like it's not that. You know, that's the pedestal of just like not even trying. At least he tried. You know, with the outfit.
Yeah.
And they had fun with it again with the Ravenstein itself. It's just like that was like the best. Like I said earlier, it's like the best part. Like they just had fun with like the I wouldn't say the lore of Ravenstein, but just the way his execution is and the way his antics are. It's just very chaotic, which is sort of like a Raven, you know, which is like quick movements, sudden movements, very chaotic, and like attacking people. And there were some okay attacks, and I guess there's some bloodshed here and there. It's not gory or anything, except for towards the end. There is one good scene there that includes again the severed head of Ravenstein, but nonetheless, um, it's just like they had fun, you know, with that part, but like they didn't have the meat on the bones to wrap around it to make the story interesting. They didn't give it any flavor, and that's the thing. It's just like a plain hamburger. Don't even give you any cheese. You know, like the cheese is there, just like it's very hint. You know, it's like a little dollop of ketchup. Like, well, at least there's a little bit of ketchup on it. You know.
Yeah.
But again, like they had fun with that part. Again, like I like the Ravenstein aspect of it. They could have done more because the way he vanishes and disappears and just like he poofs and he's gone, like the feathers just float down, you know, where he just like disappears out of nowhere. Like I like that aspect, and they could have played that up a little bit more. They kind of do it a little bit when I don't know which one it was. It could have been David lurking around and Marky's screaming at him, where like he's like one of them's walking and then like oh he's right there, and he turns around and he's not there. So I wish they kind of played up on that a little bit more, where like he's messing around with them, and like you just see the feathers trickling down, going all over the place. And then they introduce sort of, again, we're getting into spoilers here, but then they introduce an egg out of nowhere. And like, it didn't really, it felt like it just came out of, like I said, it came out of nowhere because like apparently David's dad and Jack used to work together. And then Jack did some, I don't know, it's like somewhere on the premises of this abandoned facility was the Ravenstein thing. And something happened. Don't know exactly what because it's literally in one ear out the other with the story because it doesn't pull you in. So you can listen, it's in and out. And so apparently something happened on this facility where they found this thing or the egg or something, but then it gets into this whole other aspect where, again, spoilers, the person they talked to earlier, Jack, he's able to transform into the Ravenstein creature. And so something there is muffled where I'm not exactly sure the lore of Ravenstein. So I don't know if it's a curse or I don't know. It's not exactly explained to the fullest. And then like getting the egg because there's a whole subplot of David's dad. We need to get the egg. We have to get the egg. We need to take the egg to the police or something. Like literally, that's what they say. And I was like sitting there thinking, what are they going to do with an egg? Like that doesn't help anybody, you know? They're just going to shove you off like you're fucking crazy, you know? That's police. That's how they do. And it's just like, it felt like they had an idea, but again, they just couldn't see it to fruition of what they wanted to do with this egg aspect of the film, story-wise. And again, they kind of just like shoehorn that in, and then they do the whole David and his dad like bickering back and forth because he has a bad childhood. He doesn't want to stay with his father, and that's the whole reason he goes on these adventures, apparently, just to get away from his father. So yeah, it's kind of murky, but again, like I liked portions of it with Ravenstein, and that's the only compliment I can give the film. I mean, it's not the greatest, but it's just like, it was okay, but it's just boring. It's just like a lot of stuff where it could have been more energetic, more entertaining. Like they needed to have more of just like Ravenstein chasing everybody instead of just these long extended moments and scenes of nothing happening. Like the two, what is it, Charlie and the other friend, and they're just talking back and forth about nothing. Honestly, it's just unnecessary dialogue. And then, friend got attacked by Ravenstein in the window. And then Charlie goes hides in the bathroom. And then like, okay, we need to set that up so they can find Charlie later. Fine. But then it's just like nothing really matters, honestly. Like there's just like, it's just there, you know, it's like it needed more. Again, it just needed to keep that sort of chaotic momentum throughout with the Ravenstein chasing them instead of being sprinkled here and there. It needed to be sort of constant because there's another film that's very similar to like where it was always constant. It's called Crawl or Die, and it's about this girl, and she's like in these tunnels, and the tunnels keeps getting smaller and smaller as they go on, and more tighter as it will, and she's being chased by this alien creature through the tunnels, and it just keeps getting smaller and smaller, and it's just like it was always like a constant like factor of is she able to make it through this next tunnel because it's getting smaller, and it was claustrophobic going through the tunnels as they get smaller and smaller, and like it needed to be just that constant factor with the Ravenstein attacking people. It just needed to be on and on. And it's just like little snippets, little pieces here and there, just like it did not help. It was like, again, like I said, an adrenaline shot where like, oh, finally something's going on. But then it just like wears off. I'm like, oh, here we go. We're back to this boring nonsense. And they needed more like better conversations instead of just like conversations that really serve no purpose. Like they could have like progressed the story further. Like they did some research on the area and just like kept talking about it, like sprinkle on some more lore or backstory to the facility instead of just David's dad coming in there doing exposition dump. Like same thing with Jack earlier in the film, exposition dump. but like they needed to just like keep it interesting, just keep it like a mystery, and instead of just like exposition dump, and like just randomly, oh, now we need to get an egg, here's the MacGuffin, like it's just like, where did the egg come from, why does it have an egg, just like we needed to know this instead of just like, oh, here you go, figure it out yourself. And it's just like, it just kind of didn't warrant that, like again, like I liked Ravenstein, but they just didn't handle it properly to the story around it.
No, yeah, I actually agree with that. I'm sitting here just trying to rack my brain about everything that we were gonna, we were like, what is really a whole lot to talk about, It's kind of like such a straightforward movie, them just running, Ravenstein, running, dad, egg, running. Getting on a bike. They got to switch it up.
And chainsaw in the trunk.
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, there's really like not a whole lot to say about this movie.
No,
because there's it's not bad enough to harp on it, and there's nothing really like that. There's no scenes that stand out except for the ones that we had already discussed. I mean, is there really? I mean, like, there's not a whole lot of spoilers, truly. I mean, other than like talking about the egg.
Yeah, and like Jack and that reveal and stuff. But again, you could see that coming fairly early on. Like as soon as they introduced Jack, like, well, I know what's going on now. I was like, but no, it's just fairly obvious. But yeah, it's just, again, it's one of those. Like I said, it's just like if you have like a TV set in front of your desk and like you're doing stuff on your laptop or computer, it's one of those where you're doing stuff, you can just see it, in your peripheral vision, and you're doing work on your computer, like whatever it is, and then like when Ravenstein shows up, because you'll know because of the musical cue where it's 2000s heavy metal playing, you can just peer up, watch the Ravenstein scenes, and then it goes back to being dormant and ambient and all that, just like nonchalant talking dialogue in one ear out the other. You're going back to work, and then heavy metal Ravenstein comes on, and then boom, you can peer back up and watch it. It's one of those, where you're not really paying much attention to it. There's not much story. There's no meat on the bones, and it's it's fairly, again, it's digestible enough where it's fine. It's just cheap food. It's like it's fine. It hits the spot for the time being. There's not much sustenance there. It's just like it's fine. Like it hits the spot for the time being. You have that long road trip ahead. Like let's get something quick and easy, and then like in an hour you're hungry again. Of course, like this was. I wish it was an hour instead of 90 minutes, but it just needed to trim some of that down. It was just like, again, 120, if that, would have been perfect. It's just like 115, 120. There's just like a bunch of nonsense where it really just like, you're really just padding this out for no reason. And you could have still got the same result in shorter time, because it's just like, again, a bunch of those conversations just lead nowhere. And like, they don't even really do that much lore building or like any of that for Ravenstein, except for the exposition dumps when the dad shows up. And like, you could have done that anyway. You didn't need all these, oh, I'm scared in the bathroom. Oh, I can't stand that. Oh, it's right there. Didn't you see it? It's right there. It's right there behind you, David. Marky or whoever it was. Like, it's right there. I can't believe you couldn't see it. It's right there. Ian, it is right there. It's like, you didn't need to go on with that extended monologue of nothing.
Yeah. No, like, Like that's it. I was kind of worried that this movie was going to be kind of like that. Just by the way, looking at some of the stills that I saw, but I was kind of hoping for more. Like I really wanted more Ravenstein. I wanted more, like, like
Like they could have went through the facility or all these buildings and like find
yeah,
more stuff related to like the Ravenstein and like what happened there, instead of just like, oh, it's on a table with candles, like, where they were at earlier, like this is the reason, and it's just like a poorly hand drawn thing, and then
yeah,
exposition dump. Like they could have went through there and like searched, and like there's always been this mystery about this abandoned facility, this factory, and like the lore surrounding it. And they go through there and they find books and stuff, and then like, no, screw all that. They find Jack, exposition dump, boom, we're done. Just have him meander for the next 40 minutes.
yeah. I mean, I felt like there could have been more suspense, more
Yeah.
like that's what I wanted. I wanted more from this movie that you'll realize very early on that you will not get. And I mean, oh, pardon me.
Yeah.
I actually, like I said to you before we got on here, I kind of passed out while watching this film. It's been a long week, and I got off a lot later than I meant to, and I was just sitting there watching it, and next thing I know, had to rewind it because I had felt I was watching it on my phone, and I was like, "Holy crap!" When I was just rewinding, I was like, "Holy crap! Did I not actually miss anything?" like 20 minutes had gone by, and I felt like I missed nothing.
Yeah, that's like I said, it's just one of those where you can not pay attention to it and you're pretty all right. Just pay attention to the Ravenstein moments and scenes and attacks, and that's where you're going to get your more value out of the film. Like it didn't, again, it's just it's it's average. I wouldn't say it's mediocre, but it's just like it's average. It's forgettable, and it's just like they had a cool concept with the Ravenstein and the way that his attributes of like vanishing and disappearing, and of course the shape shifting sort of later on. Like I liked all that stuff, even though they didn't really give you too much to sink your teeth into, where you have to figure it out yourself, and still wondering what exactly Ravenstein is, and the reason for the egg and why he needed an egg. And it's just, again, it's just one of those where you're just like, we can go around in circles, but it's not the film to really delve into that much. It's just, okay, wipe your hands clean, I'm done with it. It's just one of those where you're just like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah.
It's not one of those where they kind of just like waffled, just waffled it, and just like they had, like, it looked like they had fun making it. I mean, but it just felt like like I said, it probably sounded good on paper, and then the execution just didn't live up to what they wanted to achieve. And they tried, and again, I give them effort. They tried, and again, they had fun with the Ravenstein stuff, but that's the rest of that. It just felt like, and again, the acting and the performances, even though we don't really harp on acting, but it's very wooden. So it just felt like they tried, and they wanted to make something fun and interesting, but it just didn't come across that way. But they tried. So applaud them for effort, but still, it just did not come out the way that they wanted. And again, it could be a variety of reasons why that happened, but again, they tried. So that's the best I can give them. It tries.
Yeah, I mean, at least they did, like, they tried with the monster. I felt like they wanted to just make a hour and a half movie. So they did what they could to try to squeeze out every last drop they could. But I think this would have been a much better short.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, 30 minutes. 30, 40 minutes at most. And you can still
You could have
put
put
in
this in
all
like,
the information in.
yeah, because like there's a anthology film just called Cryptids, and it's just about, again, I think Joe Bob Briggs is like the host of like this radio program, and like everyone's calling in talking about like various monsters and cryptids. Like I could have seen that, this, with the Ravenstein creature, just like doing that, like like, oh, I have two friends, and a while, like something happened to them, and then just goes into this story, and or something like that, where it just like they tell the story of the Ravenstein, and it could have been, again, like you said, a worthy short, and concise and to the point, instead of overlong, drawn out, with a few adrenaline shots here and there. But there's really not much to say. I mean, it's one of those. It's an okay watch, but as long it's just one of those. Like I said, if you're not doing anything, or you got something to do on your computer, and you don't really want something, a brain, teaser or thinker, or something to pay attention to, this is perfect, background fodder, where you're just like, oh, heavy metal's playing, I better watch it, because that's when Ravenstein starts attacking, and it's the best stuff. So you kind of
Yeah.
you kind of know when to start watching it. But yeah, there's not much else to say. um Ian, any final thoughts before we call this one a show?
Uh, Honestly, no. I've been trying to think of things to bring up, but
Yeah, it's just it's just, you watch it, and like as soon as it's over, you already forgot about it. Like you can't
yeah.
even, like, we just finished this like 2 hours ago, at least, maybe even an hour ago, and so like, yeah, there's not much that goes on to really rack your brain for interesting topics to discuss, because there's no interesting topics to discuss that we haven't already discussed. So with that, I'm going to conclude this episode for Ravenstein, and we are gearing up for our Easter special next week. I'm looking forward to that. And again, thanks everyone for listening, and we will see you next time as we continue on our Twisted Nature Marathon here on Horror Night Oasis.
All right. Good night.